Senate will come to order. Mr. Carpenter, please call the roll.
Senators Aguilar, Baumgardner, Cook, Quorum, Court, Crowder, Donovan, Binberg, Fields, Garcia, Gardner, Guzman, Hill, Holbert,
Excused.
John, Jones, Kagan, Kafalis, Kerr, Lambert,
Excused.
On board quorum.
Right.
We got to get that back in.
Lumberg,
Excused.
Marble, Martinez-Jimenez, Merrifield, Moreno,
Excused.
Neville, Priola, Scott, Smallwood, Sonnenberg, Tate, Todd, Williams, Zinzinger, Holbert, Mr. President.
Here. 32 present, 0 absent, 3 excused. We have a quorum. Senator Smallwood, would you please come and lead us in the pledge?
Colleagues, guests, visitors in the gallery, please join me in our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the journal, Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the reading of the Journal of Thursday, March 22nd, be dispensed with, and that the journal be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
You've heard the motion. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the motion is adopted. Committee reports.
March 22nd, 2018, Committee on Finance. After consideration of the mayor's committee recommends the following: House Bill 1254 be referred to committee to hold. A favorable recommendation placed on the consent calendar. March 22nd, 2018, Committee on Finance. After consideration of the mayor's committee recommends the following: House Bill 1146 be amended as follows: as so amended be referred to Committee on Appropriations with a favorable recommendation. March 22nd, 2018, Committee on Finance. After consideration of the mayor's committee recommends the following: House Bill 1242 be amended as follows: as so amended be referred to Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. March 22nd, 2018, Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy. After consideration of the merits, Committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 192 be referred to Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. March 22nd, 2018, Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy. After consideration of the merits, Committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 197 be amended as follows: as submitted be referred to Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. March 22nd, 2018, Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy. After consideration of the merits, Committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 205 be referred to Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. Recommendation placed on the consent calendar. March 22nd, 2018, Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy. After consideration of the merits, Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1098 be referred to Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. Recommendation placed on the consent calendar. March 22nd, 2018, Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy. After consideration of the merits, Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1238 be referred to Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. Recommendation placed on the consent calendar. March 22nd, 2018, the Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy has had under consideration and had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends the appointments to be placed on the consent calendar to confirm members of the Mine Land Reclamation Board for a term expiring March 1st, 2020. Lauren Duncan, MS, of Littleton, Colorado, to serve as an individual with substantial experience in conservation and occasioned by the resignation of Randolph Craig Fisher of Fort Collins, Colorado, appointed. March 22nd, 2018, Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy. After consideration of the merits, Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1199 be referred to Committee to hold with a favorable recommendation. March 22nd, 2018, Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy. After consideration of the merits, Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1093 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. March 22nd, 2018, Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy. After consideration of the merits, Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1239 be referred to Committee to hold a favorable recommendation. Recommendation placed on the consent calendar. March 22nd, 2018, Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy. After consideration of the merits, Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1246 be referred to Committee to hold a favorable recommendation. March 22nd, 2018, the Committee on Education has had on consideration and had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends the appointments to be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed: members of the Board of Trustees for Western State Colorado University for terms expiring December 31st, 2021. Richard M. Todd of Centennial, Colorado, Republican appointed. James G. Oates of Gunnison, Colorado, Republican reappointed. Aquino G. Gallegos of San Luis, Colorado, a Democrat reappointed. March 22nd, 2018, the Committee on Education has had on consideration and had hearing on the following appointments and recommends the appointments to be confirmed. Members of the Charter School Institute Board for terms expiring July 1st, 2020. Elizabeth Dinah Abar Conti of Denver, Colorado, Democrat whose experience as a public school teacher and as a public school administrator working with charter schools reappointed. Christine Annette Pollard of Grand Junction, Colorado, to serve as a member of the Board of Public Service Experience as a Republican appointed. Eric Cedric Lerum of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a member of the Board of Public Service Experience as a Democrat appointed. March 22nd, 2018, Committee on Education. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee following, Senate Bill 159 be postponed indefinitely. March 22nd, 2018, Committee on Education. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee following, House Bill 1134 be referred to committee to hold. The favorable recommendation. March 22nd, 2018. Committee on Education. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee following, House Bill 1193 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. March 20th, 2018. The Committee on Transportation has had on consideration and had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends the appointments to be placed on the consent calendar. Confirm members of the Transportation Commission for terms expiring July 1st, 2021. Shannon Margaret Gifford, CFA of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a commissioner from the 1st Transportation District reappointed. Luella C. Chavez D'Angelo of Lone Tree, Colorado, to serve as a commissioner from the 3rd Transportation District appointed. Sidney K. Zink of Durango, Colorado, to serve as commissioner from the 8th Transportation District reappointed. William Tybo Jr. of Pueblo, Colorado, to serve as commissioner from the 10th Transportation District reappointed. March 20th, 2018, the Committee on Transportation has had under consideration and had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends the appointments to be placed on the consent calendar and confirm members of the Colorado Aeronautical Board for terms expiring December 19, 2018. Charles M. Myers of Elbert, Colorado, to serve as a member of the Eastern Slope and who represents the local governments which operate airports occasioned by the death of Stephen Douglas Dukoff of Colorado Springs, Colorado, appointed for terms expiring December 19, 2020. Robert Phillip Allis Augers of Aurora, Colorado, to serve as representative of the Statewide Association of Airport Managers reappointed. Ann Bertle Kiowa, Colorado, to serve as representative of the Statewide Association of Pilots reappointed. Joe Rice of Littleton, Colorado, to serve as a member familiar with supportive of the state's aviation issues, interests, and concerns, reappointed. March 20th, 2018, the Committee on Transportation has had on consideration and had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends the appointments be placed on the consent calendar confirmed. Executive Director of the Department of Transportation, effective December 11th, 2017, for a term expiring at the pleasure of the Governor. Michael Peter Lewis of Denver, Colorado, to serve as an Executive Director of the Colorado Department of Transportation, occasioned by the resignation of Shailene Praven-Bott of Denver, Colorado, appointed.
Senate Services.
Correctly engrossed, Senate Bill 108, correctly revised, House Bill 1056, 1078, 1099, 1112, and 1172, correctly re-revised, House Bill 1228.
Message from the reviser.
We herewith transmit without comment as amended, House Bill 1092.
Mr. Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we proceed out of order for a tribute by Senator Kafalis.
Motion is for the Senate to proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege to present a tribute by Senator Kafalis. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will proceed out of order. Senator Kafalis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. If I may have your attention just for a couple of minutes to share this tribute, which reads as follows. The Colorado Senate convened in the second regular session of the 71st General Assembly hereby extends heartiest congratulations and commendation to Conflict Resolution Month in Colorado. The state of Colorado applauds Conflict Resolution Month in Colorado. For 14 years, this devoted group of volunteers has worked tirelessly to inspire Coloradans to solve problems constructively. Through the promotion of various conflict resolution methods and resources, they have helped educate and empower individuals, families, communities, and organizations to foster effective communication and to find nonviolent and creative solutions to disputes. Thousands of Coloradans have participated in hundreds of activities across our state organized by practitioners, community leaders, educators, and engaged citizens. Coloradans have undeniably benefited from this life-changing work. We, the members of the Colorado State Senate, joined the governor in recognizing October 2018 as Conflict Resolution Month in Colorado, and invite Coloradans to create events that celebrate and encourage the use of productive conflict resolution in their communities. On request of Senator John Gonzalez, given this 23rd day of March 2018, State Capitol, Denver, Colorado, signed by Kevin J. Grantham, President of the Senate. Thank you, colleagues.
Senator Kafalis.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to add a couple of words. I think it goes without saying, conflict is a part of human nature, and the opportunity and the challenge before us, certainly in this body and outside this building, is to find creative and intelligent ways to do a better job of listening to one another and to resolve our differences of opinion in ways that are constructive, without violence, and with the goal of trying to find common ground when we can find common ground. I think this is important, especially these days when there seems to be division within our land, and so anything we can do to prevent conflict resolution in a constructive way, in a nonviolent way, I think is critical, and I'm grateful for your attention to this matter. I just also, in closing, want to acknowledge that we have about 14 folks here. I'm not going to go through the list, but they are from various disciplines who do mediation and other kinds of dispute resolution practices. And perhaps we could ask those folks to stand, and maybe we could give them a shout out or a round of applause. Would you guys? Thank you very much, colleagues. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Senator. System Majority Leader Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we again proceed out of order for an additional tribute by the good senator from this area over here.
Aurora. The motion is to proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege to present a tribute by Senator Fields. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and we will proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege. Senator Fields.
Good morning, Mr. President and colleagues. I would like to request a moment of personal privilege to present to you a tribute.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will read the tribute. The Colorado Senate, convened in the second regular session of the 71st General Assembly, hereby congratulates and gives commendations to Dr. Rhonda Coleman. The Colorado State Senate is pleased to honor Dr. Rhonda Coleman for launching the Healing Garden in Aurora, Colorado. The Healing Garden's Wellness Studio is a community center that offers a variety of activities for women, men, families, expected moms, and much more, with the goal of allowing people of color to learn how to become the most holistic, healthiest vision of themselves. Despite significant advances in civil rights, race remains a significant factor in producing inequalities in health status in our nation. To that extent, Dr. Coleman provides a much-needed space for preventing illnesses and providing a healthy lifestyle services for others. So in honor of Women's History Month, we here in the State Senate want to salute Dr. Coleman for her righteousness endeavors to heal and strengthen our community through health. As requested by Senator Rhonda Fields, given this 23rd day of March 2018, State Capitol, Denver, Colorado, which is signed by Kevin J. Grantham, President of the Senate.
Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to take this time and ask that Dr. Rhonda Coleman please stand. And I would like for us to salute her and applaud her for her work as it relates to health care. Thank you, colleagues. Also joining Dr. Coleman is her family and some moms. She has a homeschool co-op So many of the mothers who participate in the homeschool co-op are here. I would like for them to please stand as well as the students, and we would like to applaud you as well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Third reading of bills consent calendar. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read the titles of all the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar?
House Bill 1099 by Representatives Catlin and McLaughlin and Senator Quorum, concerning criteria that the Broadband Deployment Board is required to develop with regard to an incumbent telecommunications provider exercise of a right to implement a broadband deployment project in an unserved area of the state upon a non-incumbent provider's application to the Broadband Deployment Board to implement a proposed broadband deployment project in the unserved area. House Bill 1056 by Representatives Van Winkle and Williams and Senator Cook, concerning the statewide standard health history form that members of the Fire and Police Pension Association complete when commencing employment. House Bill 1078 by Representatives Landgraf and Exum and Senator Gardner, concerning court programs for defendants who have served in the armed forces.
Colleagues, we are going to pause momentarily here at this point and go into a recess until our JBC members arrive. They are still in the middle of their negotiations, and then we'll pick up where we left off with third reading of bills consent. So we will be in a momentary recess. Senate will come back to order. Please add Senators Lambert, Lundberg, and Moreno to the roll. We are on third reading of bills consent calendar. Assistant Majority Leader Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we proceed to the third reading of bills consent calendar final passage, consisting of House Bill 1099, House Bill 1056, and House Bill 1078.
Is there any discussion on any of the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar? The motion is for the adoption of all the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar. Are there any no votes on any of the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1099 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Crowder, Senator Martinez-Humenick, Senator Tate, Senator Zenzinger, Senator Todd, with 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1056 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Tate, Senator Smallwood, Senator Scott, Senator Martinez-Humenick, Senator Priola. With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1078 is adopted. Co-sponsors on House Bill 1078. Senator Neville.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1078.
Senator Neville will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1078.
Okay.
Let me go. I need to finish up co-sponsors on House Bill 1078. Senator Crowder, Senator Kagan, Senator Koufalis, Senator Donovan, Senator Moreno, Senator Aguilar, Senator Williams, Senator Todd, Senator Lambert, Senator Tate, Senator Martinez-Humenic, Senator Priola, Senator Scott, Senator Garcia, Senator Jones. Please add the President. Assistant Majority Leader Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having voted on the prevailing side of House Bill 1078, I ask for its immediate reconsideration.
The motion is to move to immediate reconsideration on House Bill 1078. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and we will move to immediate reconsideration. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read the title of the House Bill 1078?
House Bill 1078 by Representatives Landgraf, Nexon, and Senator Gardner concerning core programs for defendants who have served in the armed forces.
Assistant Majority Leader Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1078 on third reading, final passage, consent calendar.
Any discussion on the bill? Motion is for the adoption of House Bill 1078. Are there any no votes? Senator Neville. Go. Since we're on consent calendar, we actually have to do this at the mic. Senator Neville.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request to be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1078.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Marble.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also wish to be considered a no vote on House Bill 18-1078.
Thank you, Senator. We are on no votes on House Bill 1078. With 33 ayes, 2 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1078 is adopted. Co-sponsors, if you just raise your hand, you don't need to raise it again. Very well. Third reading of bills, final passage. Assistant Majority Leader Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege by the good senator from Berthoud.
The motion is to proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege by Senator Lundberg. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the Senate will proceed out of order. Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
I think it's been granted here, and simply want to spend a brief moment to introduce some dignitaries that are with us for a short while from Ukraine. They are first responders, firefighters, and others who protect their communities, and they're actually here under the Open World program that Congress established, and the Rotary Clubs International are quite active in bringing. So I simply want to thank them for coming and being with us today. It's a real privilege to be able to share our world with theirs and their world with ours.
Thank you, Senator Lundberg, and welcome to the Colorado State Senate. We are on third reading of bills, final passage. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read the title to Senate Bill 123?
Senate Bill 123 by Senator Sonnenberg and Representative Liston concerning asbestos trust claim transparency.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 123 on third reading and final passage and ask for the dreaded third reading amendment permission, please.
Will you please explain the need for such a thing?
I am happy to, Mr. President. Mr. President, we had a good discussion on the asbestos transparency bill, and in that discussion, we had a conversation about veterans, and we went ahead and allowed an amendment on, I would argue, under false pretense that took the veterans out of this. Since that time, I have had a number of conversations with people across the country that say, no, veterans need to be a part of this. Interestingly enough, I got a letter last night from Senator Sonny Borelli in Arizona. He's Arizona State Senator. And if I could, I'd like to read his letter to you or to me from him, as he has done this in Arizona as well. He says, Senator Sonnenberg, I understand that your Senate Bill 18123, Asbestos Trust Claims Transparency Act, is coming up for a third reading before the Colorado Senate. As you know, this is important legislation, for it goes a long way to protect veterans and other injured workers who may be sick or get sick in the future from asbestos exposure. I retired after serving 22 years in the U.S. Marine Corps. I am an active veteran advocate, and as a legislator who has served in the Arizona House of Representatives and now in the Senate, I watch out for their best interest. I was instrumental in successfully running the same legislation through the Arizona legislature in 2015. The lack of transparency and practice of double dipping in the asbestos litigation process is unacceptable. As a Marine, a veteran, and a concerned legislators, it is our duty to protect those who cannot protect themselves. I fully support your efforts in respect to Senate Bill 123 and urge its passage. We had talked about the United Veterans organization here in Colorado being opposed, which in fact was not the case. Matter of fact, they said that they have absolutely no issues with this bill. It is supported by veterans organizations across the country, such as the Texas Coalition of Veterans Organizations, South Dakota American Legion, Cost of Freedom Incorporated in Indiana, American Legion, Washington, D.C., American Legion National Executive Committee in Indianapolis, Indiana, American Legion Department of California, Military Officers Association, California, AMVETS, Department of Wisconsin, Vietnam Veterans of America, California State Council, American Military Society in Washington, D.C., Department of Indian Reserve Officers Association, Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States, Department of New York Headquarters, Air Force Association, Central Indiana. Members, our veterans need this as well as everybody else needs this transparency. I would ask for your permission to offer the third reading amendment to include our veterans in this Transparency Act.
The question before the body is Senator Sonnenberg's request for permission to offer a third reading amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and permission is granted. Will the clerk please read Amendment 3?
Amendment L003 to Senate Bill 123 by Senator Sonnenberg. Amend the engrossed bill page H, strike lines 24 and 25, and substitute 1321-1408. Application of the provisions of this Part 14 apply. Page 9, strike lines 1 through 5.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Amendment L003.
Senator Kagan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, Amendment 003 would bring veterans into the ambit of Senate Bill 123. And we're told that we must do this, and we should do this, to avoid a problem of double dipping. That is, getting a recovery for your damages from a solvent defendant and then going on to get recovery for the same damages from a trust. And it is said that that is unfair and that is unjust. And it is correct. Double dipping is unfair. It's unfair to the defendants who have paid twice for the same damages. In Arizona, I doubt that they have the rules that we have in Colorado. In Colorado, we have what is called a non-party statute. That is CRS 111.5. Now, let me explain to you what this non-party statute says. It says that in any litigation, the defendant can, through discovery, which has severe penalties if not complied with, inquire and investigate of the plaintiff who else other than the defendant might be responsible for their damages. And all that evidence that is uncovered in discovery, under penalty, I may say, of having your case dismissed, all that evidence of who else might be responsible for your damages, other than the defendant who is in court. That's why it's called the non-party statute. Whoever else might be responsible, all that evidence will be presented to the jury. It is all admissible. And then when the jury gets its verdict form, the jury is asked, is this defendant liable in whole or in part for the damages of the plaintiff? And the verdict form says, put down all those who you think are liable after hearing all the evidence, and then apportion how much of the damages are attributable to this defendant and how much are attributable to the other non-party defendants. That is Colorado's rule. We have a very careful non-party statute which makes sure that the jury knows who, other than this defendant, might have contributed to the plaintiff's damages. And they put a percentage on that. And you cannot, in Colorado, claim for $1 of damage that was, in the opinion of the jury, caused by somebody else, in this case, a trust. Now, not all states have this. I don't believe Arizona has this. There is another thing that Colorado has, which is we have no joint and several liability in Colorado. And I believe they may have in Arizona, I don't know. What is joint and several liability? Joint and several liability means any of the responsible parties are responsible for all of the damages if you can't or haven't got the damages from the other parties. So imagine a situation where a car comes out in front of you, you slam on the brakes, and you are rear-ended by the car behind you. You are blameless, but two people have caused your injuries. The car that shouldn't have come out in front of you, and the car that shouldn't have rear-ended you from behind. Both those parties are responsible. Now, in Colorado, you cannot recover all your damage from either of those defendants. In other states, and I doubt that, I suspect Arizona is one of them, you can not only not talk about the other person who's responsible for your damages, but the other person who is responsible for your damages can get away scot-free because you can get all your damages under joint and several liability from either one of the cars. The one that rear-ended you, or the one that cut across you. Not so in Colorado. You cannot do that kind of double-dipping in Colorado. You cannot claim a penny in Colorado from a defendant who was partially, but only partially responsible for your damage. The verdict form makes it very clear. The rules of evidence make it very clear. This double-dipping problem has been taken care of in Colorado. So the only thing that bringing Colorado veterans under this regime would accomplish is the ability to force complete disclosure of pretrial strategy in these cases as in no other. To force, in some cases, the plaintiff, to go to trial against some parties who they don't want to go to trial against, unlike no other kind of case. to complicate the litigation through supposed transparency,
Senator?
unlike no other case. And therefore, I urge a no vote on this amendment.
Thank you, Senator. We're going to be in a brief senatorial 5. Senate will come back to order. Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I withdraw my motion for Amendment L003.
Amendment L003 is withdrawn. Assistant Majority Leader Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we refer Senate Bill 123 back to the Committee of the Whole. Second reading.
Back to the second reading calendar. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Ayes have it, and that will be re-referred back to second reading. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read the title of the Senate Bill 47?
Senate Bill 47 by Senator Marble and Representative Singh concerning the repeal of income tax credits for innovative motor vehicles for purchases and leases entered into on or after January 1st, 2019, and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senator Marble.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 47 on third reading and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under Rule 17C, I request to be excused from voting on Senate Bill 47.
Senator Priola will be recorded as a 17C. Senator oh, I did it again.
That's a $5 fine. Maybe it should be a $10 fine.
Senator Court.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to urge a no vote on this. Out of the $3 billion worth of tax incentives of various kinds that we have, this is a minimal amount, and I believe it's a very valuable one to keep on the books. I urge a no vote. Thank you.
Senator Neville.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I urge an aye vote. Policy is important, and what we value should be important. Tax credits should be something that we are very, very careful in what we hand out. This program has a federal tax credit that's still there, and it's had a state tax credit that's been in position for a long time. It's time to for the birds to fly, birdie fly on their own. Urge an aye vote.
Senator Williams.
Thank you, Mr. President. And members, I rise in opposition to this piece of legislation and ask you for a no vote. I think that the tax credit that many of our constituents, I know my constituents, take advantage of this tax credit by purchasing electric vehicles. I think electric vehicles are going to be the trend of the future, and it's going to help us with our emissions and all the climate and all the environment out there in the future. And again, my constituents utilize this quite a bit. I think we should encourage this type of tax credit, so I ask you for a no vote.
Senator Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I wasn't going to come down here, but everybody else is, so here I am. I asked for a no vote on this bill. This program works. If you want to talk about energy independence, this fits right in that frame. Not having importing foreign oil to fuel cars. It's also cleaner for the environment. And it also is in the vein of what's happening to our economy. It's shifting to this kind of vehicle. There are some manufacturers that aren't even going to build cars with internal combustion engines any longer. GM, I think, has 21 models coming out in 2020 of electric vehicles. This is the way we're going, and they're going to get to scale, and we won't need this subsidy. And to the issue of subsidies, we subsidize the heck out of oil in its production. Why wouldn't we subsidize something that's clean and doesn't pollute and doesn't increase ozone and doesn't hurt young people with asthma? Why wouldn't we go in that direction? That's our brand, quite frankly, in Colorado. So I asked for a no vote on this. This used to be a bipartisan issue. For some reason, it's not any longer, but it's a good move to go the direction we're already going and not back off. So I ask for a no vote.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 47? Seeing none, the motion for the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 47. Are there any no votes? Senator Jones, Senator Zenzinger, Senator Fields, Senator Kafalas, Senator Guzman, Senator Garcia, Senator Fenberg, Senator Kerr, Senator Donovan, Senator Aguilar, Senator Williams, Senator Merrifield, Senator Moreno, Senators Todd and Court. with Senator Kagan. With 18 ayes, 16 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, 117C, Senate Bill 47 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Sonnenberg, Senator Baumgardner, Senator Neville, Senator Cook, Senator Hill, Senator Holbert, Senator Coram, Senator Gardner, Senator Smallwood, Senator Tate, Senator Lambert, Senator Lundberg. Please add the President. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title of House Bill 1191.
House Bill 1191 by Representative Winter and Senators Martinez, Huminick, and Gonzalez concerning a local authority's ability to alter speed limits within the local authority's jurisdiction.
Senator Martinez, Huminick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1191 on third and final reading and ask for a favorable vote.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1191? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1191. Are there any no votes? Senator Sonnenberg, Senator Baumgardner, Senator Cook, Majority Leader Holbert, Senator Scott, Senator Marble, Senator Neville, Senator Crowder, Senator Tate, Senator Smallwood, Senator Hill, Senator Gardner, Senator Lambert, Senator Lundberg. Please add the President. With 20 ayes, 15 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1191 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Mr. Carpenter, please read the title of Senate Bill 1.
Senate Bill 1 by Senators Baumgardner and Cook and Representative Buck concerning transportation infrastructure funding.
What was that?
Assistant Majority Leader Scott.
Mr. President, I think I now understand why I see Senator Steve Fenberg's name tag on the new replacement. Is that what's going on here? Mr. President, I move Senate Bill 001 be laid over until Tuesday, March 27th.
The motion is to lay over Senate Bill 1 until Tuesday, March 27th. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and that will lay over. Mr. Carpenter, please read all of the title to House Bill 1112.
House Bill 1112 by Representative Becker, J. and Esgar, and Senator Crowder concerning covered health care services provided by a pharmacist.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1112 on third and final reading. Ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion for the body is the adoption of House Bill 1112. Are there any no votes? Senator Smallwood, Senator Baumgardner, Senator Cook, Senator Tate, Senator Marble, Senator Hill, Majority Leader Holbert, Senator Lambert, Senator Lundberg, Senator Scott. With 25 ayes, 10 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1112 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Sonnenberg, Senator Merrifield, Senator Aguilar, Senator Donovan, Senator Kagan, Senator Moreno, Senator Jones, Senator Kafalas, Senator Garcia, Senator John, Senator Coram, Senator Williams, Senator Fields, Senators Court and Todd. Please add the President. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title of House Bill 1172.
House Bill 1172 by Representative Young and Senator Lambert concerning money allocated from the appropriations from the Marijuana Tax Cash Fund to a designated managed service organization to implement its community action plan.
Senator Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1172.
Is there any further discussion? The motion for the body is the adoption of House Bill 1172. Are there any no votes? Majority Leader Holbert, Senator Cook, Senator Baumgardner, Senator Sonnenberg, Senator Hill, Senator Marble, Senator Scott. No votes on House Bill 1172. With Senator Neville, with 27 ayes, 8 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1172 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Crowder, Senator Martinez-Humenick. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title of the Senate Bill 108.
Senate Bill 108 by Senators Crowder and Corman, Representative Art and Singer, concerning the issuance of identification documents under the Colorado Road and Community Safety Act to persons who are not lawfully present in the United States and in connection with making an appropriation.
Senator Coram.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're hard to tell apart at times. Members, I move Senate Bill 108 on third reading and final passage. Ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 108. Are there any no votes? Majority Leader Holbert, Senator Marble, Senator Cook, Senator Smallwood, Senator Lundberg, Senator Neville, Senator Gardner, Senator Scott, Senator Hill, Senator Tate. With 25 ayes, 10 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 108 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Garcia, Senator Zenzinger, Senator Jones, Senator Fields, Senator Kafalos, Senator Guzman, Senator Moreno, Senator Kagan, Senator Aguilar, Senator Williams, Senator Merrifield, Senator Fenberg. Senator Donovan, is your hand up technically? Senator Donovan. Senators Todd and Court. Senator Kerr. General orders, second reading of bills. Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. After 195 legislative days, including 2 in special session, I move that the Senate resolve itself into the consideration of general orders, second reading of bills.
The motion before the body is for the Senate to resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of the general orders, second reading of bills calendar. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for consideration of the general orders, second reading of bills calendar, and Senator Holbert will take the chair.
The committee will come to order. The court rule is relaxed. Assistant Majority Leader Scott.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I move that we lay over Senate Bill 185 and Senate Bill 052 to follow Senate Bill 200 on the calendar.
The motion is to lay over Senate Bill 185 and Senate Bill 52 to follow Senate Bill 200. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and Senate Bill 185 and 52 will follow Senate Bill 200 on the general order, second reading of bills calendar. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read the title to Senate Bill 200?
Senate Bill 200 by Senators Tate and Priola and Representative Becker, Kay, and Pabon concerning modifications to the Public Employees Retirement Association hybrid defined benefit plan necessary to eliminate with a high probability the unfunded liability of the plan within the next 30 years.
Senator Tate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 200 and the committee reports from Appropriations and Finance.
To the Finance Committee report. Seeing no discussion, the question before us is the adoption of the Finance Committee report. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Finance Committee report is adopted. To the Appropriations Committee report, Senator Tate. Is there no further discussion on the Appropriations Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Appropriations Committee report is adopted. To the bill, Senator Tate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Glad to be here moving Senate Bill 200. It's probably one of the more consequential bills we'll deal with in our legislative careers here, and it has to do with the magnitude of the problem. As we all know, Senate Bill 200 helps address challenges we have with our public pension systems in Colorado. We're here because, as the General Assembly, we have financial and fiduciary responsibility for PARA, and we're responsible for its long-term sustainability. We're all very interested in providing retirement security and benefits, and those are values of the General Assembly. We're here today because, according to PARA's own published reports, it's underfunded by approximately $50 billion, which is a pretty hefty sum. And I do want to emphasize it's billion, not million. I've seen a couple of media reports in the past month that have understated the liability by a factor of 1,000. You know, it's if you put that on a per capita basis, the liability is somewhere between $6,000 and $14,000 per man, woman, and child in Colorado, depending on how you want to estimate the liability we have with PARA. The fund, PARA, is underfunded. Its funded ratio is close to 50%, and the longer PARA is underfunded, the more it's at a risk for insolvency. And that could happen if there's some dramatically negative economic events, and we've seen that in the last 15 years. The sooner that we meaningfully address the problem of PARA, the more likely the state will be able to provide retirement security and meet our financial obligations. We have a responsibility to provide retirement security by acting in the best interests of today's workers, tomorrow's workers in the public sector, PARA beneficiaries, the employers, retirees, and taxpayers who are all part of the PARA equation. Colorado's credit rating was recently put on negative outlook by Standard & Poor's because of the concerns over PARA's funding. If PARA's funded ratio declines further, absent action by this body, Colorado's credit rating could be taken down, and that would affect all the state's borrowing costs, which then affects collateral cost damage and all kinds of activity that the state's involved in. I just really wanted to say, considering how big the problem is, it's almost bigger than we can imagine. I really want to extend my gratitude to my colleagues here in this chamber who have taken this issue on with a great degree of seriousness and earnestness. It's really sad and unfortunate we're here today to try to deal with something this large with no easy solutions. I think I was here last session with a bill on PARA, and I said, you know, I think the problem's too big that haircuts are coming for everybody. It's just that big. I wish we weren't here. I wish decisions had been made 10, 15, 20 years ago that were different. Can't turn back the clock. We're here today with a liability problem, an unfunded liability problem that's going to be extremely, extremely expensive. And again, I'm grateful that the General Assembly is taking up this issue with an earnestness and a sense of urgency, because the cost of waiting any further is similarly problematic. I look forward to the discussion today. Like I said, there's no easy answers. I'm looking forward to some additional answers provided by my colleagues here in the Senate, and urge an aye vote on Senate Bill 200. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
There is an amendment on the desk. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read L015?
Amendment L015 to Senate Bill 200 by Senator Kagan. Amend the Finance Committee report dated March 15, 2018, page 1, line 2, strike 10.15% and substitute 10.9%. Page 1, line...
Senator Merrifield. Senator Merrifield.
Thank you, Mr.
Chair.
I move Amendment L015.
To the amendment.
This amendment actually is to the Finance Committee report, which, if you were paying attention, removed any employer contribution to this solution that we are trying to find for para's underfunded liabilities. This amendment puts back in an employer contribution of 1.5%. Now, if you remember, the original bill had employers contributing their shared sacrifice. Those words were used quite often as we talked about how we could meet the challenge of para's underfunded liabilities. Shared sacrifice was used very frequently, but suddenly employers' shared portion was removed. So, believing, as the good senator from Centennial believes, that everybody should have a haircut, I'm trying to reintroduce a haircut for the employers by raising their contribution from no increase to 1.5. Specifically, there's good reason behind this. For instance, Pew Charitable Trust diagnosis of our challenges said that amendments to remove increases in employer contributions have a significant negative impact on the efficacy of the reform. In 2010, I remember when I was here in 2010 in the House and we passed legislation to address concerns about para, employees and retirees paid for 90% of the cost to reduce that unfunded liability. Now, once again, we have a bill that increases contributions on employees and retirees, but no extra money from the state or from employers. What's frustrating about that is we are in this position that we are in because the state promised benefits to public employees and then underfunded the cost of those benefits by $4.5 billion since 2001. So if we're going to share the responsibility, share the sacrifice, we have to be aware of that. Employees didn't make promises that they couldn't keep. Retirees didn't make promises that they couldn't keep. The state, on behalf of 500 employers, are the ones who have made promises that they didn't keep. Employers, groups, and retirees agreed and shared responsibility and to fix the high-risk problems. So we should share that responsibility and not relinquish and not allow employers to relinquish that responsibility. Therefore, in fairness, if we are going to make this solution as equitable as possible, and if we are once again going to make sure everybody gets a haircut, I would urge you to vote yes on Amendment 015. Thank you.
Is there further discussion on L015? Senator Neville.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, colleagues, we do take very seriously, we had this conversation in the Finance Committee, we take very seriously the impact to employers, employees, and pretty much to everybody within the system. I want to point out that when we start taking a look at potential blame here, I think we're missing the point. There's enough probably blame to go around. We can go back to Senate Bill 1, a bill that was supposed to fix everything by 2040 year specific and provide 100% funding for para. That didn't work. So I guess we could blame the markets. We could blame investments. We could blame the ability of previous legislatures to allow buying of years of service, but that doesn't get us anywhere. And when we take a look at the employer share and the employee share, for the most part, in most divisions, used to be 8% and 8%. Now the employer share is up to almost 21%. And so when we take a look, that employer share ratcheted up 0.9% over the last, I don't know how many years, since 2010 when Senate Bill 1 was passed. So the employers have been paying more. There is a point when you get into small governments, and we heard from the municipalities their concerns about being put in a situation where they may be paying 23%, 25%. It's not really sustainable for those municipalities. And so we wanted to take that into consideration also. So I would urge a no vote on L015.
Senator Tate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I urge a no vote on the amendment as well. I appreciate the concerns by the senator from Jefferson County. Right now, we're in the budget season, and right now we don't know to the degree to which the General Assembly will be backfilling employee contributions. So I think until we have a little bit more of a handle on the budget and what's going to happen with that, I think the amendment is premature and urge a no vote. Thank you.
Senator Kagan.
Thank you. The good senator from Colorado Springs, I think that's where he's from. That's me. Yeah, no, the good senator from unincorporated Jefferson County. The good senator from unincorporated Jefferson County referred to the 20% employment contribution. I just want to note that 5 of that 20% is what's called the SAED, and that 5 of the 20% is money that should have, could have, and would have gone to pay raises for employees, but didn't go to pay raises. Instead, it was paid by the employer, not to the employees as a pay raise to which they were entitled, but instead to the trust fund for PERA. So it is an overstatement to say that employers are chipping in fully 20%. In fact, 5 of that 20% is pay raises foregone that employees and employers and the General Assembly agreed, instead of going to employees in pay raise, would go into the trust fund as the so-called SAED. So let's not overstate the amount that employers are paying.
Is there further discussion on L015? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L015. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The noes have it, and L015 is lost. There is an amendment on the desk. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read L020?
Amendment L020 to Senate Bill 200 by Senator Kagan. Amendment printable page 45, line 20, strike 1/4, and substitute 3/4. Page 46, line 16, strike 1/4, and substitute 3/4.
Senator Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, I move L020 to Senate Bill 200.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, what this amendment does is that we have had a lot of conversations around COLA, which will affect our retirees and those in the future. And so this amendment moves the 1/4 COLA adjustment to 3/4 by reducing the COLA lower than the PERA board recommendations of the 1.5 to the 1.25%. It's too low, and it increases the interest and the risk of our retired employees not being secure in their retirement. All of our retirees, this is the smallest raise that they get when it comes to taking care of their needs. We know that the cost of the health insurance, housing, food, and other basic needs are increasing rapidly in Colorado. And reducing the COLA rate in such an extreme way will make our retirees and local economies in our state struggle unnecessarily. We already know that COLA is suspended for 2 years. And so my constituents, and I'm sure many of you have received emails in which they're willing to do their part. And with the 2-year suspension on the COLA, they're willing to do their part as long as it's fair. And I think this proposal is fair. In 10 years, a 1.25% COLA does the following. It results in a loss in average of $22,688 in para benefits. It decreases the para benefit by 8.7%, and retirees will lose 11.9% of their purchasing power. And so a 1.75 COLA doesn't reduce the employee buying power, the retiree buying power, and inflation and protections as much. I think that this is a reasonable proposal for those involved. I do want to stop and thank the senator from Denver and our senator from Centennial in bringing this conversation forward and all their hard work. And I would ask you for an aye vote on L020.
Senator Merrifield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also would urge an aye vote on this amendment. A COLA reduction from 2% to 1.25 reneges on a promise that we have made to our employees. An annual inflation has averaged 2.24% over the last 25 years. The current rate of 2% would already results in a loss of 6% of purchasing power for those retirees over 25 years. But if we drop it to what the bill suggests, 1.25, that will result in a 21% reduction in purchasing power over the same period. 21%, that's a fifth of your income. And if you're a retiree and you're suddenly being told, hey, we're going to cut your income by 1/5, there's no other way to describe it other than punitive. So as the Colorado Springs Gazette, which is no roaring liberal advocacy publication, said in their editorial, don't fix para on the backs of those who have spent a career being grossly underpaid. There are other issues in this bill that concern me just as they do the Gazette, but this is one example of how we would be fixing para on the backs of our employees. So I would urge your support for this Amendment 20.
Senator Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too urge a yes vote on this amendment. I want you to remember that before 2010, cost of living increase was 3.5%, and it was cut to 2% in Senate Bill 1 in 2010. And now this says we should go to 1.25. So, this amendment makes it about half instead of less than half of what it once was. And the reason this is important, obviously, is that with inflation, you could really lose income. And I want you to remember back to the 70s, those of you who are old enough to think about that, and recall hyperinflation. What was the inflation at? 11, 12%? That's going to just crush people in their retirement if that happens again. And this is 1.75 isn't that much. It will not keep up with inflation over time. And that's all we're asking here. I prefer to have it stay at 2% because this has already been done and people have already been negatively impacted. So this amendment to me is a compromise. The 1.25 is a non-starter. That will really, really hurt people who dedicated their lives to public service, in many cases at a lot less income as others. So I ask for a yes vote on this amendment.
Further discussion on L020. Senator Tate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I certainly appreciate the concerns expressed by those advocating for the amendment. I do want to point out a practical observation that, the COLA cap going forward will adjust as the plan's solvency condition changes or its funded ratio changes. I'd also like to point out that currently in the bill it reflects a COLA cap amount that meets the recommendation of the governor of the state of Colorado, and urge a no vote on the amendment. Thank you.
Further discussion on L020. Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L020. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The noes have it, and L020 is lost. There is an amendment on the desk. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read L013?
Amendment L013 to Senate Bill 200 by Senator Kagan. Amend Print Bill, strike everything below the enacting clause and substitute.
Senator Kagan.
Mr. Chairman, I move L013.
To the amendment.
Members, L013 is a strike below which has been on your desks for 24 hours as a courtesy to you to allow you to read it. What L013 does is it proposes a comprehensive stabilization of the PERA funding for the foreseeable future. And it does it in a way that doesn't do unnecessary injury to current or indeed future PERA members. It does what is needed, and I can say that with assurance that it does what is needed. I have been to the actuaries who crunch the numbers and asked them, will this measure, the way it is presented, will this measure put us on a path to 30 years, 100% funded liability for all the divisions? And they have told me unequivocally, the PERA Board actuaries, yes, it will. Will it, if we pass the bill in the form of L013, will the PERA plan pass the all-important GASB solvency test? And they have said, yes, it will. Now, PERA is not in crisis, but PERA is in need of steadying and stabilizing. We are, according to most measures, we lack what the financial world calls resiliency. Right now, if there should be an improbable but still possible 100-year flood event, and it should come very soon, then PERA will be in crisis again, as indeed it was in 2010. And the reason we're not in crisis today and were in crisis in 2010 is because we passed Senate Bill 1 in 2010, which called for belt-tightening and sacrifice from employers, employees, and retirees to stabilize the PERA system. Now, since 2010, you may ask, what has changed? Well, we've revised our assumptions and made them much more conservative, and more conservative, in fact, on the assumed rate of return than most other pension plans, but that's what we've done. We've had an increase in the mortality rates. People are living longer. That's good for the retirees, but it's not so good for our funded liability ratios, and it is proper that we address those now or next year, or certainly in the near future, because we do not have the resiliency we need. This amendment, 013, as I said, passes the GASB solvency test and gets us on a path to 30-year unfunded liability without doing unnecessary harm. It calls for employers to increase their contributions by 0.75% on July the 1st of this year, and another 0.75% on July 1st, 2019. It calls, and this is a sacrifice, for a COLA suspension for 2 years, and then when the COLA comes back, for it to come back capped at 1.75%. It calls for an increase in the highest average salary from 3 years as it is now to 5 years, which makes for a sacrifice by those retirees because it will be a lower highest average salary if you do it over 5 years. But the current bill says 7. It is unnecessary. The current bill on COLA says 1.25% on COLAs. That is unnecessary. The current bill says no employer contributions increase whatsoever. That throws the burden of the para fix onto employees and retirees unnecessarily. Senate Bill 1013 gets us to 100% funding in 30 years without an increase in the retirement age. And that increase in the retirement age, which is substantial in the bill as unamended, is unnecessary. This amendment would eliminate the complications of going from the para salary from the net amount to the gross amount and including the benefits that go along with the salary as part of the salary. That is unnecessary. Is going to be extraordinarily complicated and difficult for many of our employers to implement, and it is taken out in Senate Bill 200, Amendment 013. There is, most importantly, in Senate Bill, in the amendment, there is no offering of the poisoned chalice of defined contribution to para members. And I want to just talk about this for a moment. There are many who believe, as a philosophical matter, that to pool one's resources and make sure that no matter how long you live, you will be taken care of because the resources are pooled and the effort is collective. It's done through an association. There are those who believe, no, individualism is better. Let each person provide for themselves. If they provide well, then good for them. If they die early, they will be fine and they will have a nest egg to pass on to their children. That is the better way to encourage savings and retirement security, is to let each man and woman fend for themselves. That is a valid point of view, but it is not one that is shared by the para members. It is not what has motivated our secure retirement program since 1932. We believe that a much better way is to say, pool your resources, accept lower pay, and take those savings from lower pay and put them into a pool so that no matter how long you live, you will not descend into poverty. That is good for those who live long, and it is good for the communities in which they live, because if those through pooled resources are living long in the communities, they are contributing to those communities' economies to a massive extent, rather than descending into poverty and then being a drain on those communities. And that is a philosophical difference that is very visible in the difference between Senate Bill 200 and our amendment. Our amendment does not say taxpayers will pay more so that para members can get less, so that we can move away from defined benefit, everyone being covered until they die, to defined contribution, where if you've contributed enough to get you to 75, great. If you contributed enough to get you to the age of 78, great. And if you live longer than that, well, that's your problem. That is an offer that is being made in the bill as amended, as unamended. We want to take that out. So, I want to stress, before I ask for your support on this amendment, that it does pass the GASB solvency test, that it does lead para to 100% liability 100% funded ratio within 30 years. It is prudent in that respect, And that is a big concession on the parts of para members, because there is nothing sacred about 30 years and 100%, but they were willing to go with that. And it does those things, but it doesn't inflict unnecessary pain. Also, it has adjustments in it, as does the original bill, which make sure that if we are below the track, then we smarten up, tighten up, and get back on the track. If we're way ahead of schedule, then we give some of the concessions back to paramembers, to employers, and to retirees. It is self-adjusting. It is secure. It is fiscally sound, and it inflicts no unnecessary injuries. And I urge an aye vote on the far better plan presented in Amendment 013.
Senator Lundberg. Senator Tate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the sentiments from my colleague from Cherry Hills Village. I understand the concerns. I think Senate Bill 200 is addressing it differently, reflecting a combination of both the governor's proposed plan as well as paras, as well as people concerned about taxpayer involvement. It strikes a good balance as is, so I urge a no vote of the amendment. I would like to observe also that from a standpoint of retirement savings versus retirement security, for folks who are interested in retirement savings and having a little bit more ownership over their retirement plan, you know, one person's poison chalice could be another person's holy grail, and urge a no vote amendment. Thank you.
Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There is so much to discuss on this bill, which I will not engage in, but I believe there's something that people need to know about when you compare defined benefit and defined contribution as far as how that affects the individual employee. And let's take school teachers for an example. Under para, if you are under the defined benefit system, in order for you to enjoy anything from your contributions into the program, you have to become vested. If you are, now there's an exception for those who were in the system long ago, but if you're hired as a school teacher today, you have to have a full 5 years in the program before you are vested. And if you leave before that, you take nothing with you. If you have the defined contribution system, which isn't allowed, but under the bill, and it is, under the amendment, it quite apparently is removed. Under those terms, if you work for the school district for 3 years, you would then be able to take your contribution with you. That's equity that should be in place. So be very cautious when you're assuring a constituent that the defined benefit is the way to go. That's the way to go only if you're there for a very long time. If not, the system actually takes advantage of the employee. In this case, the example I gave, a school teacher. And let me just carry this one step further, just to put it within the context of what this means in the real world. At the end of 5 years, most people who begin as a school teacher aren't there. Para takes it all, the employee takes nothing, and gets no credit with the federal Social Security system because they weren't a part of that program. That's an inequity that I believe is unconscionable, and that's why I don't support this amendment, but I do believe the bill has some real merit in this respect.
Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in support of this amendment. Over the past handful of weeks, I've done my mid-session town hall tour and have gotten to most of my 7 counties, and para has come up at every single town hall, and I don't think that'll be a surprise to any of us, considering we're talking about the security of people's future. And what I heard repeatedly over and over was a very realistic view of what the future of para was and what we needed to do on it. But time and time again, people said, I took this job because of my expectation of para being there for me. You know, I decided to take lower pay perhaps because I knew para would be there for me. And so what they repeatedly asked was in town after town was, please do what you need to make para solvent and have a long-term future. But considering that this is a promise you guys made to us on our retirement and our expectations, please do the least impact on us. Make it work for the future, but please try to turn the dial for the impact on the expectations that we had the least. So I'm supportive of this amendment because it hits the requirement of the long-term solvency and health of para, but it doesn't do it completely on the backs and more than we need to on the people that had expectations of what their retirement would look like. So I ask for an aye vote on this amendment. Thank you.
Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, the real benefit in the DC option that exists in this bill and this amendment is trying to take out is think about the other bills that have come through this session and prior sessions addressing teacher shortage in rural areas, so on and so forth. The average 20 to 30-year-old millennial is looking for flexibility and options in employment. And by signing up for trying teaching or getting into teaching, they can they can take the DC as an option, and they always have the option to roll into the DB up to 5 years. If they decide that teaching is not for them, they can take a corpus of money and turn it into a 401k or something along those lines, and they can use that money to borrow towards and help open a business. So this is flexibility for our labor force, for encouraging folks to go into teaching. We don't live in a labor environment like our grandparents where it's 30 years and a gold watch with the same company. I ask for a no vote on L013.
Senator Kagan. Senator Kagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The highly respected senator from Berthoud, I think, misunderstood one part of the para plan, which is that if you are there for less than 5 years and you have not vested, it is not the case that you get nothing when you quit. From day one, you are entitled to get back what you contributed to the plan. That is the 8% that you put into the plan, you get back. What you don't get back if you quit before you're vested, what you don't get back is the employer contribution toward your plan. But you do get back your savings, and those savings are not inconsiderable. Those savings are 8% of your salary. If my amendment goes through, they will be 9.5% of your salary. So we are talking about a very fair deal, even for those who don't do the 5 years. And I just wanted to point that out to the body.
Senator Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nice to see you up there.
And good to see you from here.
I wanted to make a comment about the 3 years piece about if you leave. I'm a case of that, where I took my 3-year money out. It was a poor decision that I made to take it out, because then I did go back into education and I had to start all over again. But it was a decision that I personally made. But one of the benefits of if you keep that money in, you are still entitled to an opportunity to be a part of the para insurance benefits plan, that you could still tap into those benefits that are available to members of para. So, for example, let's say that you have taught for 3 years and then you decide not to continue, or you take a leave of absence, or you decide that you're going to do something different, but you're kind of in limbo of a job, of a permanent location of where you're working, you could still tap into and reap those benefits as a para member for your health benefits and be a part of that program. And so that is a benefit for it to be able to stay the course. It isn't a matter of walking away empty-handed. It isn't a matter of walking away and saying, I just lost everything. It is another way of being able to keep your membership and your participation with PARA available for you to reap health benefits. And then if you choose to go back into the PARA system, then those years are already there and you continue to contribute and add on to them. So I just wanted to make that clarification. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Is there further discussion on L013? Senator Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we lay over Senate Bill 200 till Monday. That will be March 26th.
And I assume as amended. I think we have not had any.
As amended.
Okay. The motion is to lay over Senate Bill 200 as amended until Monday. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and Senate Bill 200 will lay over till Monday. Assistant Majority Leader Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also move that we lay over the balance of the calendar until Monday, March 26th.
The motion is to lay over the balance of the second reading, general order second reading of bills calendar until Monday, March 26th. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the balance of the general order second reading of bills calendar will lay over until Monday, March 26th. Assistant Majority Leader Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
How about we rise and report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move we rise and report.
The motion is for the body to rise and report. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee will rise and report. So we did not do 14? And we didn't finish 13. Do you want this back or no? I'll print my own. Harry?
Ready? Do we need to plug anything? We good? Senate will come back to order. Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your committee has met, had a number of bills under consideration. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole Biggs lead report is out on consideration of the following task bills within the second reading thereof. Makes the following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 200 as amended, Senate Bill 185, Senate Bill 52, Senate Bill 166, Senate Bill 204, House Bill 1148 laid over until 3/26/18, retaining their place on the calendar.
Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move adoption of the report.
Question before us is the adoption of the report. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, the report to the Committee of the Whole is adopted. Consideration of government's appointments consent calendar.
We laid all that over. You want to do that? Got it.
Mr. Carpenter.
Member of the Colorado Lottery Commission for term expiring July 1st, 2021, the Honorable Charles Dennis Mays of Pueblo, Colorado, an attorney admitted to the practice of law in Colorado for now less than 5 years, reappointed.
Senator Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the appointment of the Honorable Charles Dennis Mays of Pueblo to the Colorado Lottery Commission Board.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the confirmation of Charles Dennis Mays for Colorado Lottery Commission. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Charles Mays is confirmed to the Colorado Lottery Commission. Signing of bills.
The President has signed Senate Bill 90, 95, 98, 131, and 173. The President has signed House Bill 1138, 1249.
Message from the House.
The House has passed the third reading transmitted revised statutes. House Bill 1175. The House has passed the third reading transmitted revised statutes. House Bill 1155, 1262, 1186, 1235. Amendments printed in the House Journal, March 21st, 2018.
Message from the reviser.
We herewith transmit without comment House Bill 1175 without comment as amended House Bill 1155, 1186, 1235, and 1262.
Delivery to the governor.
To the governor for signature on Thursday, March 22nd, 2018 at 4 o'clock p.m. Senate Bills 74, 102, 125, 134, 138, 165.
Message from the governor.
Message from the governor.
March 22nd, 2018, Colorado Senate. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to inform you that I have approved and will file with the Secretary of the Senate the following acts. Senate Bill 9 concerning the right of consumers of electricity to interconnect energy storage systems for use on their property, approved March 22nd, 2018 at 2:41 p.m. Senate Bill 20 concerning mental health care professionals who are permitted to perform auricular acudetox, approved March 22nd, 2018 at 3:06 p.m. Senate Bill 46 concerning authorization to increase the minimum donation required to be issued a certificate that qualifies a person to be issued a group special license plate, approved March 22nd, 2018 at 2:45 p.m. Senate Bill 93 concerning the repeal of obsolete provisions in the Colorado Medical Assistance Program relating to the inactive home and community-based services waiver for persons living with AIDS, approved March 22nd, 2018 at 3:20 p.m. Senate Bill 101 concerning student admission to Colorado State University Global Campus, approved March 22nd, 2018 at 2:56 p.m. Senate Bill 5 concerning economic assistance for rural communities experiencing certain significant economic events that led to substantial job loss in those communities in connection therewith, authorizing the Department of Local Affairs to coordinate non-monetary assistance to assist rural communities with job creation or retention, approved March 22nd, 2018 at 3:09 p.m. Senate Bill 10 concerning the requirement that a residential landlord provide a tenant with specified documents relevant to the landlord-tenant relationship and in connection therewith specifying rent receipts and copies of any written lease agreement as documents that must be provided, approved March 22nd, 2018 at 3:20 p.m. Senate Bill 60 concerning protective orders in criminal cases, approved March 22nd, 2018 at 3 o'clock p.m. Senate Bill 69 concerning enforcement of statewide degree transfer agreements, approved March 22nd, 2018 at 2:21 p.m. Sincerely, John W. Hickenlooper, Governor.
Announcements. Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you. Members, 1 month ago today, 17 people were shot down and killed in Parkland, Florida. Dozens and hundreds of people are going to be rallying and marching on Washington tomorrow. In fact, right here in Denver, there's going to be a rally. I'm encouraging you to join me and other students. We're going to be at the Civic Center Park in front of the state capitol at 1:30 p.m., and then the rally begins at 2. But I want you to keep in mind all of the parents, the moms, the dads, the students, the teachers, the clergy, the community that are going to be rallying together. I ask that we lift them up in prayer and making sure that that rally that's going to take place across the nation, that everyone is safe. These young people are marching because they want to lend their voice to address gun violence in our nation. And I want to make sure that we encourage them, because as lawmakers, that's what we should be doing, is helping our young people succeed in this effort. I am just so proud of the kinds of tone and topic and how they're presenting themselves. And so I encourage you to participate in the march here in Denver, or if you have the time and the resources, go to Washington, D.C. and support these young people. And to the young people who are participating tomorrow, I want you to be strong. I want you to be safe. I want you to stay encouraged. Thank you.
Senator Kafalis.
Thank you again, Mr. President. Colleagues, I just want to remind you, you have a flyer on your desk, but on Monday we have we're meeting every 2 weeks, but the Colorado Children's Caucus will be convening from noon to 1:15 in SCR 357. The two presentations that we'll have on Monday are the following. One is by the Aurora Mental Health Center. The topic is Advancing Trauma-Informed Approaches for Schools. The second presentation is by the University of Colorado, Denver, Carrie Miller. The topic is Poverty and Child Welfare in Colorado. Where can we go from here? I encourage you to, perhaps you could get your aides or someone to follow up and RSVP. It would be nice to have some turnout for these important topics and for us to have another opportunity to learn. Thank you.
Senator Martinez-Humenick.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Statute Revision Committee will meet promptly at 11:40 in Senate Committee Room 352. It was upon adjournment, but I'm trying to give people just a little bit of time to actually get up there. Thank you.
Senator Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Look back on the prayer yesterday and what we were asked to look for here in this building, some things that we don't always see much. And I keep going back to walking with humility and reaching out, really looking for people, looking for the good in people. And it did get me thinking. And I'm not one to come to the well and talk much about Scripture or faith, but I did have a good discussion yesterday with my good friend Lucia, and we were talking about some. Could be any Lucia. Come on. We were talking about some proverbs, some stories from the Bible, and also in light of some of the news that I think we all heard yesterday. And I would like to commend one of my colleagues in righting a wrong and taking swift action where it was deserved, and I'll just leave it at that. But when we talk about, I think sometimes people have been taking some of our moments of personal privilege as casting stones, and of course there's this story of let he who is without sin cast the first stone, and it's made me wonder and think and have some introspection about who is innocent, who is completely innocent, who is without sin, I guess you would say. And there's also the saying around throwing stones and living in glass houses as well. My friend Lucia and I talked about the story of the woman at the well, and how Jesus talked about redemption and what an individual can do to earn that redemption. I also think about what the news was yesterday, particularly about the individual involved. Knowing that the interns in my office, high schoolers and college interns, have potentially been exposed to some of the actions that were in questions, or attitudes, or words perhaps. Many of you know one of my interns is my oldest child, who's in high school, and also another one of my interns is also in high school, a female friend of his. Her dad is a very good friend of mine, also a pastor. And it really made me think if I need to, when young people come down and intern for us, I think it's very important that their parents and they feel safe down here. And it certainly after yesterday, it made me wonder if I need to call my friend and let him know that his daughter working in my office and interning in my office safe. I hope so, and that's what we are trying to do. That is what we are trying to do, is to make the Senate, make the legislature, make this building and our offices across the street safe for everyone, and a place where we can be proud to work, a place that we can be proud to serve our constituents. Another friend of mine who's a doctor received a letter from a woman who works in the service industry and shared this letter with me. And having worked in the service industry quite a bit, and also when I was younger and perhaps not quite as gray, for one thing, but perhaps I had not learned all the lessons that I could have at this point. This letter really struck home to me. It says, on behalf of all females in the service industry, specifically those who make beds and waitress, thank you for representing gender equality during contentious controversy. Tonight, while driving home and feeling defeated by enduring about 10 years of different types of gender discrimination and sexual harassment, I heard your soundbite about prohibiting sexual misconduct on NPR. Throughout the last 10 years, my value has been reduced to how I look in a pair of jeans and whether it makes men excited when they look at me or grab me. There are words that have been expressed and stated to me. I'm a law school graduate who graduated at the top of my class, interned for judges, city attorneys, endured hardships, and have taken whatever job I could find to survive. I worked customer service jobs where there's video of customers rolling up newspapers and hitting me on the behind, grabbing me on the waist from behind, grabbing me on the shoulders from behind, and suggestively touching me in other ways. I've endured countless catcalls and sexual invitations offering money for oral sex. At one place of employment, when I expressed what was happening, my immediate male supervisors laughed and thought it was funny, even after reviewing the video. At another job, a male supervisor sympathized, yet stated it's part of working in customer service. He went on to mention that sexual abuse, assaults, and batteries are something I need to learn to accept to keep my job, and that regardless of how customers treat me, it's my job description to help them and ensure they leave satisfied, regardless of what they do to me. Since 2008, I've also experienced verified similar misconduct from various coworkers. This has been a humiliating decade from which I still have not recovered. Sometimes I cry because of how men have dehumanized me, demoralized me, and how such behavior is trivialized by supervisors and others. Moreover, you're right about victim shaming and blaming. When I've reported incidents to the police and shared with others, people ask, what part did you play and what were you wearing? When all I did was try to professionally complete the transaction. After making police reports and telling others, upper management investigated the situations and found I was not at fault as initially presumed, but that although I wasn't, I did know the people and had relations with them outside of work. Despite unreasonably being shamed and blamed for being my own advocate, I am not dissuaded from continuing to represent my rights and equality of opportunity, regardless of race, age, or gender. Nevertheless, at age 38, some days it's still really difficult and causes me to sob like a child. So consequently, thank you again for fighting for gender equality. A lot of people assume that dads like me are doing this for their daughters, and I am. I have a daughter, and doing this, absolutely I'm doing it for her. I'm also doing it for my sons, because I want them to grow up and be able to work in the service industry. I want them to be able to come here to the Capitol. I want them to grow up, not make some of the same mistakes I made. And if there's anyone out there that feels that I have something to apologize for, I certainly would like to extend that apology. But this is for my kids, all of my kids. And for this reason, we, the members of the Senate Democratic Caucus, ask that the Senate resolution re-prepared and submitted for introduction on February 13th, 2018, entitled Concerning the Expulsion of the Senator from Northwestern Colorado for Sexual Harassment of a Legislative Employee, be promptly introduced and brought to the floor of the Senate for debate. Thank you, Mr. President.
Are there any further announcements? Senator Neville.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, Monday morning, 9:30 a.m. in front of the old Supreme Court, you will be able to get an Egg McMuffin for breakfast. So encourage you to bring your appetite on Monday, and hope you all have a great weekend.
Senator Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I just wanted to let you know where the Joint Budget Committee is in our schedule. We will be meeting again on the upon adjournment to actually close the long bill. This morning we started our work at 8 o'clock, made 27 motions that were so rapid that probably not everybody quite understood what we were doing. So our diligent staff is over, has been working since then to make sure the pixie dust that we're spreading around on the budget, several hundreds of millions of dollars, is actually falling in the right places. But we will be meeting after this. The long bill actually will probably not be delivered to your desk in paper form on Monday. We're hoping that it will be available to start in the House on Monday, but it should be online if any of your members or staffers would like to see that. You remember the supplemental package that we've been talking about? Well, we just passed House Bill 1172 this morning. That represents the last of the JBC supplementals. So since we're done with that today, we'll start the long bill hopefully on Monday, and we will see you later. Thank you.
See you later. Any further announcements? Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate adjourn until 10 a.m. Monday, March 26th.
Motion is for the Senate to adjourn until 10 a.m. Monday, March 26th. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will stand in adjournment.